LETTER XL of Clarissa Harlowe, or the History of a Young Lady, Vol. IX. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit Librivox.org. Recording by Nicole Lee. Clarissa Harlowe, or the History of a Young Lady, Vol. IX. by Samuel Richardson. Letter XL. Mr. Belford to Robert Lovelace, Esq. Friday, September 22nd. Just as I was sitting down to answer yours of the 14th to the 18th, in order to give you all the consolation in my power, came your revoking letter of Wednesday. I am really concerned and disappointed that your first was so soon followed by one so contrary to it. The shocking letter you mention, which your friends withhold from you, is indeed from me. They may now, I see, show you any thing. Ask them then for that letter, if you think it worth while to read aught about the true mother of your mind. I will suppose that thou hast just read the letter thou callest shocking, and which I intended to be so. And let me ask what thou thinkest of it. Dost thou not tremble at the horrors the vilest of women labours with, on the apprehensions of death and future judgment? How sit the reflections that must have been raised by the perusal of this letter upon thy yet unclosed eyelet holes? Will not some serious thoughts mingle with thy melilot, and tear off the callus of thy mind, as that may flay the leather from thy back, and as thy epispastics may strip the parchment from thy plotting head? If not, then indeed is thy conscience seared, and no hopes will lie for thee. Mr. Belford then gives an account of the wretched Sinclair's terrible exit, which he had just then received. If this move thee not, I have news to acquaint thee with, of another dismal catastrophe that is but within this hour come to my ear, of another of thy blessed agents, thy Tomlinson, dying, and in all probability, before this can reach thee, dead, in Maidstone gaol, as thou sayest in thy first letter. Something strangely retributive seems to be working. This is his case. He was at the head of a gang of smugglers, endeavouring to carry off run goods, landed last Tuesday, when a party of dragoons came up with them in the evening. Some of his comrades fled. Macdonald, being surrounded, attempted to fight his way through, and wounded his man; but having received a shot in his neck, and being cut deeply in the head by a broadsword, he fell from his horse, was taken, and carried to Maidstone gaol; and there my informant left him, just dying, and assured of hanging, if he recover. Absolutely destitute, he got a kinsman of his to apply to me, and, if in town, to the rest of the confraternity, for something. Not to support him was the word, for he expected not to live till the fellow returned, but to bury him. I never employed him but once, and then he ruined my project. I now thank Heaven that he did. But I sent him 5 guineas, and promised him more, as from you, and Mowbray, and Tourville, if he live a few days, or to take his trial. And I put it upon you to make further inquiry of him, and to give him what you think fit. His messenger tells me that he is very penitent, that he weeps continually. He cries out that he has been the vilest of men, yet palliates, that his necessities made him worse than he should otherwise have been, an excuse which none of us can plead. But that which touches him most of all is a vile imposture he was put upon to serve a certain gentleman of fortune to the ruin of the most excellent woman that ever lived, and who, he had heard, was dead of grief. Let me consider, Lovelace, whose turn can be next? I wish it may not be thine. But since thou givest me one piece of advice, which I should indeed have thought out of character, hadst thou not taken pains to convince me that it proceeds not from principle, I will give thee another, and that is, prosecute, as fast as thou canst, thy intended tour. Change of scene, and of climate, may establish thy health, while this gross air, and the approach of winter, may thicken thy blood; and with the help of a conscience that is upon the struggle with thee, and like a cunning wrestler watches its opportunity to give thee another fall, may make thee miserable for thy life. I return your revoked letter. Don't destroy it, however. The same dialect may one day come in fashion with you again. As to the family at Harlowe Place, I have most affecting letters from Colonel Morden, relating to their grief and compunction. But are you, to whom the occasion is owing, entitled to rejoice in their distress? I should be sorry if I could not say that what you have warned me of in sport makes me tremble in earnest. I hope, for this is a serious subject with me, though nothing can be so with you, that I never shall deserve, by my apostasy, to be the scoff of men, and the triumph of devils. All that you say of the difficulty of conquering rooted habits is but too true. Those and time of life are indeed too much against me. But when I reflect upon the end, some untimely, of those of our companions whom we have formerly lost; upon Belton's miserable exit; upon the howls and screams of Sinclair, which are still in my ears; and now upon your miserable Tomlinson; and compare their ends with the happy and desirable end of the inimitable Miss Harlowe; I hope I have reason to think my footing morally secure. Your caution, nevertheless, will be of use, however you might design it; and since I know my weak side, I will endeavour to fortify myself in that quarter by marriage, as soon as I can make myself worthy of the confidence and esteem of some virtuous woman, and by this means become the subject of your envy, rather than of your scoffs. I have already begun my retributory purposes, as I may call them. I have settled an annual sum for life upon poor John Loftus, whom I disabled while he was endeavouring to protect his young mistress from my lawless attempts. I rejoice that I succeeded not in that, as I do in recollecting many others of the like sort, in which I miscarried. Poor Farley, who had become a bankrupt, I have set up again; but have declared that the annual allowance I make her shall cease, if I hear she returns to her former courses. And I have made her accountable for her conduct to the good widow Lovick, whom I have taken at a handsome salary for my housekeeper at Idgware; for I have let the house at Watford; and she is to dispense the quarterly allotment to her as she merits. This good woman shall have other matters of the like nature under her care as we grow better acquainted; and I make no doubt that she will answer my expectations, and that I shall be both confirmed and improved by her conversation; for she shall generally sit at my own table. The undeserved sufferings of Miss Clarissa Harlowe, her exalted merit, her exemplary preparation, and her happy end, will be standing subjects with us. She shall read to me when I have no company; write for me, out of books, passages she shall recommend. Her years, turned of 50, and her good character, will secure me from scandal; and I have great pleasure in reflecting that I shall be better myself for making her happy. Then, whenever I am in danger, I will read some of the admirable lady's papers; whenever I would abhor my former ways, I will read some of thine, and copies of my own. The consequence of all this will be, that I shall be the delight of my own relations of both sexes, who are wont to look upon me as a lost man. I shall have good order in my own family, because I shall give a good example myself. I shall be visited and respected, not perhaps by Lovelace, by Mowbray, and by Tourville, because they cannot see me upon the old terms, and will not, perhaps, see me upon the new, but by the best and worthiest gentlemen, clergy as well as laity, all around me. I shall look upon my past follies with contempt, upon my old companions with pity. Oaths and curses shall be for ever banished my mouth. In their place shall succeed conversation becoming a rational being and a gentleman. And instead of acts of offence, subjecting me perpetually to acts of defence, will I endeavour to atone for my past evils, by doing all the good in my power, and by becoming an universal benefactor to the extent of that power. Now tell me, Lovelace, upon this faint sketch of what I hope to do and to be, if this be not a scheme infinitely preferable to the wild, the pernicious, the dangerous ones, both to body and soul, which we have pursued? I wish I could make my sketch as amiable to you as it appears to me. I wish it with all my soul; for I always loved you. It has been my misfortune that I did; for this led me into infinite riots and follies, of which, otherwise, I verily think I should not have been guilty. You have a great deal more to answer for than I have, were it only in the temporal ruin of this admirable woman. Let me now, while you yet have youth and health and intellect, prevail upon you; for I am afraid, very much afraid, that such is the enormity of this single wickedness in depriving the world of such a shining light, that if you do not quickly reform, it will be out of your power to reform at all; and that Providence, which has already given you the fates of your agents Sinclair and Tomlinson to take warning by, will not let the principal offender escape, if he slight the warning. You will perhaps laugh at me for these serious reflections. Do, if you will. I had rather you should laugh at me, for continuing in this way of thinking and acting, than triumph over me, as you threaten, on my swerving from purposes I have determined upon with such good reason, and induced and warned by such examples. And so much for this subject at present. I should be glad to know when you intend to set out. I have too much concern for your welfare not to wish you in a thinner air and more certain climate. What have Tourville and Mowbray to do, that they cannot set out with you? They will not covet my company, I dare say; and I shall not be able to endure theirs when you are gone. Take them therefore with you. I will not, however, forswear making you a visit at Paris, at your return from Germany and Italy; but hardly with the hope of reclaiming you, if due reflection upon what I have set before you, and upon what you have written in your two last, will not by that time have done it. I suppose I shall see you before you go. Once more I wish you were gone. This heavy island air cannot do for you what that of the continent will. I do not think I ought to communicate with you as I used to do on this side the Channel. Let me then hear from you on the opposite shore, and you shall command the pen as you please, and honestly the power of J. BELFORD. LETTER XL.